December 12th, House Oversight. Democrats drop new Epstein photos, and suddenly, one name snaps back into the center of the frame: President Donald Trump. Not in court, not in a document dump, but in images, social, undated, and now public. And here's the part that matters. This photo release is not the main event. It's the countdown clock. Because in 1 week, the Justice Department faces a deadline under a new law to release the Epstein files it holds. And that's why this story is moving fast, and why both sides are already fighting over the narrative before the documents even land. Stay with me, because the photos are the smoke, the deadline is the fire, and the next 7 days could change who gets pulled into the spotlight and who avoids a new round of questions. This week, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released a batch of photos they say came from a trove provided by Epstein's estate. And the trove is not small. They say it contains over 95,000 photos, including images of powerful men, photos of women, and photos of Epstein properties. CBS reports the committee released 19 photos in this latest batch, including images showing Trump and former President Bill Clinton. And Democrats say they will continue releasing more in the days and weeks ahead. Now, here's the key line that needs to be said clearly. The released photos don't show explicit content. Women's faces are obscured to protect privacy. So what we're looking at is not a criminal exhibit. It's context, association, proximity, and political timing. And that timing is the point. Because if you think this is just about old pictures from the 90s, you're missing what Congress is signaling. This is pressure, and it's aimed at the DOJ clock. And if you're sitting here thinking, this is just noise, pay attention, because in 1 week, the DOJ deadline hits. And I'm going to be right here breaking down every name, every redaction, and every contradiction. Subscribe now or miss it. As soon as these photos hit the public, the reaction followed the script. Democrats frame it as transparency and oversight. Republicans and the White House accuse them of cherry-picking photos to create a false narrative about the president. And Trump's broader posture has been consistent for years. Yes, he knew Epstein socially in the 90s and early 2000s. And he says he cut ties long before Epstein's later prosecutions became the story America couldn't ignore. But here's the uncomfortable truth in politics. You don't need a conviction to take damage. You just need a fresh reminder. In a moment when the public is already primed for suspicion. Right here, stay with me, because in a few seconds we're going to connect these photos to the deadline and to the one legal question that matters: what gets released, what gets redacted, and who gets named. Now let's talk about that deadline. This is where the story turns from gossip to government. In November, Trump signed legislation ordering the Justice Department to release documents from its Epstein investigation. Reuters reported the DOJ would release documents within 30 days, with the possibility that some information could be withheld, and that puts the expected release window right around December 19th. So when House Democrats start dropping photos from a 95,000 image trove on December 12th, 1 week before the DOJ deadline, the message is obvious. We're watching, we're building pressure, and we're not letting this quietly fade. And that leads to the most important question. What does release the files actually mean in practice? What will the DOJ release? What will be unredacted? What will be protected? And what will be fought over in court the moment names appear? Because the Epstein story has always been about the same dark puzzle. Not just the crimes, but the network, the access, the protection, and the silence. And this is critical, because the next phase is not about who appears in a photo. It's about what paper trail survives redaction. And this is where another headline matters, because it shows how this system works. Business Insider reports Epstein's estate is fighting to hide 277 emails with Goldman Sachs' top lawyer, citing attorney-client privilege. And the dispute is tied to efforts by Epstein accusers to access more information about the network around him. At the time, she was at Latham & Watkins. And reporting has noted it isn't fully clear whether she formally represented Epstein. Notice what that suggests. Even after Epstein became radioactive, the battle is still over information. Who controls it? Who can lock it behind privilege? And who gets to decide what the public is allowed to see? So the photos are the front page. But the real war is in the email logs, the legal claims, the redactions, and the deadlines. So here's where we are now. House Democrats say they have a 95,000 photo trove and they'll keep releasing more. The White House says Democrats are cherry-picking, and the DOJ is staring at a deadline that could force a new wave of disclosures, right as this story is already boiling in public view. And I want to say this clearly. A photo isn't proof of a crime, but in politics, optics are gasoline and deadlines are matches. If the DOJ release is heavy on substance, names, logs, contacts, payments, travel, then the photo drop we saw today will look like the opening move of a much bigger fight. But if the DOJ release arrives with deep redactions and careful limits, then the real question becomes, who decided what we're not allowed to see and why? Now tell me in the comments, do you think the December 19th release is going to be a real disclosure or a controlled narrative with redactions? And if you want the next update the moment those files move, hit like, subscribe, and stay locked to True Talk.